Hi and welcome to Ace Martial Arts Interviews. I'm Daewoud. This interview is with Dr Luke Del Vecchio. Luke is one of Australia's most credentialed sports scientists and one of the best health and fitness educators going around. Luke's journey in health and fitness started when he was a young boy, when he became interested in martial arts. Luke is an experienced and established martial artist with a gold sash in kungfu, a black belt in Arnis, and 20 years experience in freestyle martial arts. It was great to reminisce with my old friend, Dr. Luke Del Vecchio. Here we go, Luke Del Vecchio. Hello, one of my first training partners. Welcome to Ace Martial Arts Interviews, mate. How are you doing?
Very good. Thanks for inviting me along, and yeah, it's great to be here.
So, Luke, you're known as the doctor in sports science. You're a fitness guru, health guru, but a lot of people don't know that you're a martial artist, a long-time martial artist. What first sparked your interest in martial arts training as a young guy?
Look, probably like a lot of people, I saw a number of Bruce Lee movies and pretty much got captivated by what I saw. And that's my earliest memory, just watching, I think it was The Big Boss.
Yes.
Yeah, The Big Boss. And like everyone else, I got caught up in the craze and got very interested in martial arts.
Now, was it The Big Boss with the subtitles or the dubbing where they'd go?
The dubbing. No, it was the dubbing. I don't think at that age, I think I was that young, I might have had trouble reading subtitles. So might never have happened if it was subtitles. I might have gone, I can't read this, and turned it off. So
the dubbing was a disaster. As you watch the dubbing as you get older, you see them laugh, ha ha ha, and then their mouth moves. So Bruce Lee, very common for many people to get into martial arts watching Bruce Lee or some type of martial arts action star. And when did the training actually start from watching those movies?
Good question. I really have to go back through the memory vault here. Wow, where did I? Okay, yes, now I recall. I'm pretty sure it started at Engadine at a GKR karate club.
Really?
Yeah, the community hall there that's on Anzac Oval in Engadine. There was a karate class. Pretty sure it was GKR. Memory serves me correctly. So yeah, I started going. I actually recruited a whole bunch of my school friends because I didn't want to go on my own. I was a bit shy, and they didn't even like martial arts. They were all into skateboarding at the time, and I just insisted. They came, and I think they lasted a week. They did 2 or 3 lessons, and then in that week, and then I was the only one left over, and I continued on for some time.
That's some new information. I had no idea. So many of us started with karate. We've spoken to a few people. GKR, I think there's about a million of those places in every school hall in Australia.
And that's right. That's as I said. I know. Then I started. I was there, and then I started to sort of dabble in some other systems. And I remember having to ask my mum to take me to these different classes, which she wasn't all that excited about because almost every week I was finding new martial arts classes around the Southern Sky for her to take me to. And I think if I recall correctly, I was trying some Hapkido at Sutherland as well. There was a small Hapkido club, and I tried a few classes there. And then I think not long after, ninjutsu popped up in England in the same hall where they was doing the karate, but another night, a ninjutsu club popped up, and it wasn't long around that time as well. The ninjutsu movies started to come out, so I had a bit of an interest in ninjutsu as well. If you remember,
what was his name? Michael Dudkoff.
Michael Dudkoff, yeah, the American Ninja. The American Ninja.
What a disaster! What happened to his career?
And then there was, is it Ko Shogun? There was the Japanese actor who was really good as a ninja too, and he had a bunch of Revenge of the Ninja, if I remember one of the titles correctly.
Oh, you're kidding! Michael Dudkoff. Wow, I heard that name for a while. All right, so from ninjutsu, then where?
That's where I get a bit lost. I ended up at it's a bit of a time lapse now, but somehow I ended up in Kung Fu. And I think around that time, that's when I moved to the South Coast. With my parents divorcing, I went down to the South Coast with my mother, and it was down on the South Coast I got introduced to Wing Chun first, and that was my first experience with Kung Fu. And at the same time, I was doing Taekwondo. There was a Taekwondo club. That was the first martial arts club I could find. And being in the South Coast, there wasn't as many options for training. So there was obviously quite a few Taekwondo halls. So I started there, and the story that I remember was there was an individual advertising in the paper, just a 6-week course for my self-defense course.
Mm-hmm.
And in the explanation of what the course was, what it involved, it was Wing Chun, and that's what really got my attention. Kung Fu, finally. Obviously still having my attachments to Bruce Lee and having watched all these life story videos and knowing full well that it was Wing Chun that got him started.
Mm-hmm.
I was really excited to do this 6-week Wing Chun self-defense course. And the instructor at the time was catching a train every day up to William Chung's full-time academy in Sydney from Nowra. So it was a 2-hour train trip every day. He was enrolled in the full-time instructor's course that William Chung opened, and was getting the off-study to be a full-time student learning how to become a martial arts instructor. So he was basically just showing what he'd learned during those classes during the week.
So was William Chung one of the first martial arts marketing machines?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no doubt. I mean, he's what he achieved in those early days was quite remarkable. Like setting up a course, getting a course accredited for off-study was quite a feat. The paperwork involved to go through it, become an RTO and to have that approved for off-study, so students could enroll full-time. And essentially being trained to be a martial arts instructor and getting off-study to do it. So I was super impressed at what he was doing.
How long did you train in the Wing Chun system for?
Look, I trained, his name was Phil, that instructor, and I trained on and off with him for about a year. Because it took a year to finally open up a club. So at that time I was just seeing him. I finished the 6-week course and I was just starting to do privates with him. So I spent about a year doing Wing Chun with him. I never really graded or did any followed an official framework. It was just some ad hoc training once a week with him. And I started to want a bit more, and it was taking some time to open up a club. And that's when I found the other Kung Fu system that I learned, and which was Wu Chi. They had a school in Culburra, which is a beachside suburb in the south coast. And I somehow got introduced to that club. And if I remember correctly, I saw them on the beach. I was out there one weekend having a swim, and there was a couple of guys doing these moves on the beach. And I could recognise it wasn't karate, it wasn't taekwondo. So I went over and introduced myself and asked what it was they were doing. And that's when they said, look, we're doing this system. It's called Wu Chi. You come along to one of our classes.
So you progressed quite far into that system and became an instructor on a gold sash. What was it about the Wu Chi system that made you stay in it? And how different is it to other forms of Kung Fu that you trained in? For example, Wing Chun.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the fact that it was a formal class is what I was looking for, and I wasn't getting through the Wing Chun and my friend or the gentleman who was giving me the private. So I wanted to be part of a formal system, formal class, and that's what they could offer with a grading system, and that included the progression through the different coloured sashes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sort of attracted me to it. And as opposed to Wing Chun is it's kind of based on the animal type scenario in Kung Fu. Some Kung Fu systems align their moves and techniques to the replicating animal type scenarios, and that's what this system was based on a little bit. So that's what sort of also got my interest, that it was based around some of these animal moves. I always had, I was curious about the tiger style, the different animal styles. I was always curious about that, and it's quite hard to find a club that just specialises in those animal systems. So that's what sort of really engaged me in it.
And when did you start teaching the Kung Fu?
So I did that system for about 2.5 years before, and then I moved to Sydney, and I was about 18 or 19. So I left them, unfortunately. I was only halfway through the system. I was at a red sash. So red sash is about halfway. I had a green sash, I think it was, in that system, and then maybe a brown, then the black gold sash. So it was the system, if I remember correctly. I was only about halfway through and I left, and then they sent me a letter, and I don't know why and how I got this letter. And I've opened up this letter and it says, on principle, we accept your request to open up a school. Conversations with some of the other students about wanting to open a school, but I never actually made a formal request to the Sifus and that I wanted, and I just found it kind of a strange event. I got a letter in the mail saying, on accept your request to open up a school. And in that system, one of the ways you can get the gold sash, which is your black belt equivalent, and they called it walking through the doors to get the gold sash. There is I believe, 10 different ways you can walk through a door and get a gold sash. One is the traditional way, which is just work your way through the belts. But I must have chose door number 9, which is just move and then open your own school. So I got to jump. I skipped a few grades and got straight to gold sash, but I came with the responsibility. So I never really felt I earned that gold sash, to be totally honest. But I had to open a school and start running a school. So in other ways I did, because I had to have the responsibility then of, at about 19, of opening a kung fu school and being there twice a week and running 2 weekly classes. And so I guess in other ways perhaps I did, but it wasn't the traditional bit of getting your black belt.
The letter is very impressive.
That is a true story, and absolute. And I still to this day, no, I did not make a formal request. So somehow, not that conversation I had with one of the other students.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Over 20 years ago, I was at a place called Double Dragon Martial Arts, training with the great legend pioneer Mick Spinks, and I was training in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. And back then, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was really unknown. And this guy walked in named Luke. And it was the first time I met Luke, and Luke was my partner. And I'll never forget the first time I grappled with you. You tried to rugby league tackle me. And we were warned numerous times that we had to relax. What brought you to the doors of Double Dragon Martial Arts? And then you started training the kickboxing. We started training kickboxing together, and the rest is history. What made you take that next step from traditional martial art to a modern martial art of BJJ and kickboxing under the great Mick Spinks?
Look, I think, to be honest, at that time, I'd been running the Kung Fu school for probably a year, and just started to realise what the shortcoming was. It was hard to do sparring and actually get some, to try and test our skills with that system of Kung Fu. It didn't really work at sparring. It was based on the premises and the philosophy of that you go in and you stay in. So once you initiate combat, that's it. You're in and you stay in. There's no pulling of your punches or pulling of your kicks. It was designed, the system's designed to go in and stay in, basically. So, I was starting to wonder, well, how will I know if what I've learned will protect me if needed? I was curious. And I guess I needed to find a practical way to see all the training I've done, how, where I was at, to get a bit of a benchmark of where I was at. So I realised I'd need to do some cross-training. And I realised also that the limitation of that traditional system was that you just didn't get a chance to test yourself, basically. So I knew I needed to find a system or a style of combat training where I could. And the obvious ones were the grappling, because that's direct. Grappling is nothing but testing yourself, stress testing yourself, and likewise with boxing and kickboxing.
Now, you did something that most people see in the movies. You actually went around to different martial arts schools and tested yourself by sparring their students. Yes?
Yeah. Well, that was that was part of this. I guess that
journey.
Time where I was at, I was like, the journey. And where I was at that time was, okay, well, if I can't do it here in my club and it's just not safe and proper, then I thought I'd go around. And so I would go around to some other clubs, typically karate and taekwondo, because they had regular sparring in their classes. And I'd come in for a casual visit and make an inquiry that I was just, I guess, interested in potentially taking up a membership with them and joining the club. And then, we do some sparring. And of course, what I realised is, because I've been trained in that system to go in and stay in, it really didn't work well, particularly with taekwondo, because obviously taekwondo is a sport and it's not about the aggressive contact that you get in other systems. And I got myself into a bit of trouble because once the sparring would start, I'd want to go in and stay in and stay on them, not attack them, move back and defend. And it wasn't really well received. I got asked to leave. So they said, I don't think the way you spar isn't really compatible. One of the instructors said to me. So,
and the fact that you started kickboxing, where your hands were locked away with boxing gloves, that must have been huge for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was hard, because everything in Kung Fu is about using your palms and the blade of your hand and your hammer fist and every other part of your upper limb. So absolutely, that was very restrictive, and I remember struggling with that.
I also remember you struggling with the concept of tip-tap sparring.
Well, that's the problem. I've been trained in a system where there isn't tip.
It's go forward and go in.
And Wing Chun's a bit like that as well. So some of the Wing Chun work I've done was always once you initiated a move, you just move forward, move forward. And yeah, that was definitely something I had to learn to regulate a bit more.
You end up becoming an instructor of Double Dragon Martial Arts, teaching the kickboxing class. And we were both going through our apprenticeship as instructors. Was that the catalyst for you to take a career in fitness and health, training in martial arts? Was that what inspired you to become a personal trainer initially?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think it was just the natural transition, really. If you think about, particularly because I was running a club, so teaching is very similar. There's a lot of similarities and to running a martial arts club instructor as there is a PT. There is a lot. So the attributes were already being developed from my early exposure to being an instructor and running a class. So it just felt it felt like a very easy transition, I must say. I wasn't daunted by it. It just felt like that was the natural progression.
Did you get a letter in the mail saying if you walk through the door, you get a PhD?
No.
No letters? No letters.
No letters.
You did get a letter.
I wish I kept that letter. You know what? I wish I'd kept that letter.
Oh, that's a great letter. You did get a letter saying if you want your PhD, you've got to move to North Queensland.
True. Yeah, Rockhampton, that's right.
And what was the martial arts like over there for you? I know you did some training up there.
In Rockhampton, look, it was the humidity in Rockhampton and the heat is just something I'll never forget, and I was certainly not prepared for coming from obviously Sydney, the southern states. It's a lot cooler. And the sessions, I remember slipping over because the sweat from the whole class, you'd be in these kickboxing and grappling classes, and the mats would be wet. And because you still train, even around 5 or 6 p.m., the heat and humidity, and particularly in summer, was just nothing I'd ever experienced before. And I was slipping over all the time because literally the floors were wet from everybody sweating. And of course, these were clubs that didn't have air conditioning, and so they were basically in garages up there. So you were training on mats in garages with pretty poor ventilation. So that I remember most. The heat, humidity, and slipping over. Trying to throw a kick and going, oh.
While you were busy studying your PhD, you took a challenge upon yourself to become a master's athlete, which was your thesis, training the master's athlete.
Yep.
And it brought you back to your traditional martial arts roots. Can you please share the story with us?
Well, so of course at that time the Masters Games were being heavy. We were doing a lot of research on the Masters Games, which is an annual competition for Masters athletes. And I guess after spending so much time researching it and writing about it, I really wanted to experience it. And I looked at the sports available, and I thought, well, here's my check. Look, martial arts is probably the sport that it'd be easiest for me, the lowest lying fruit, if you like, for me to pick up and start training for and competing. So of the martial arts available, Taekwondo was available. So I looked at that and said, well, why don't I have a try at this just so I can experience the Masters Games? I'll go into the Taekwondo competition.
And do you need a black belt for that, Luke?
Well, I contacted the organiser. That's the conversation was, look, I've been training in the backyard for a long time with this stuff. I've got a bat. This is what I said to him. I said, look, I think I could have a go at the black belt division, okay? And he laughed, but he's principled to let me compete in the black belt division. Even
that's gold.
Yeah, a little bit of backyard. I said, backyard trained, I'll be fine. I watched a few videos and watched plenty of movies.
That's all it takes.
I'm sure he found it pretty entertaining. The organizer there, but what I did do is I enlisted a local Taekwondo instructor I was doing 2 sessions with him a week.
Yeah.
Just and get to get ready for the competition and the tactics more so than anything else, just to get some oversight on what tactics I should use, and obviously I needed to adapt to the in and out type model that Taekwondo is rather than the go in and stay in.
And you can't kick with a shin, can you? In the comp.
So you can kick above the waist
with a shin bone of your leg.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Great.
You can. So and there was the World Taekwondo and the International. I did the International because at least you could punch to the face, whereas with the World, if I understand correctly, we weren't allowed. There was no punching to the face. You could kick to the head, but you'd only punch to the body. Mm-hmm. You're actually allowed to punch to the face. So I went into the ITF competition. It felt like I guess my theory was I could still use my hands and use the boxing training that I had to make sure I could keep my hands up and I'm more comfortable using, I was more comfortable using boxing punches than the reverse punches.
And what was it like, your first event, your first opponent? What happened at the Masters Games?
Look, I didn't have a coach, so I walked in and I couldn't even. I hadn't worn gis since I was a kid. So I guess the funniest story is, so I've walked in and I've started to put my gi on, and I've actually got it on, and I've come out of the dressing room gi on. I'm getting these funny looks from everyone, and I'm starting to get a bit paranoid. Why is everyone looking at me? And then about 5 minutes later, and I'm feeling really like self-conscious because I'm definitely getting people staring at me.
Oh,
and America, he'd come over from America to compete. And he comes over and says, "Hey man, no disrespect, but you've got your belt on wrong." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, you haven't put your belt on correctly, and this is wrong." And so he starts dressing me in front of everyone, just as the preparation. And he says to me, he goes, "Me and my friend, we're sure you the street." I said, "Yeah, pretty much." I said, "I haven't worn a gi for 20 years. I've just trained myself in the backyard." And he was laughing. He's dressing me, trying my belt on correctly. And
that's beautiful.
Competition without I didn't have a coach, and all I could hear was the competitors' coach telling me what to do. So I was starting to get a bit frustrated because, obviously the pressure of competition. So I just defaulted. I forgot everything I'd learned with my Taekwondo instructor, forgot it all, and I just reverted back to a brawling model. Unfortunately, because I was no coach, I was under pressure, and I just started attacking like I would as a boxer. And at one point, I grabbed the poor guy's head and did a knee, and I got a big warning. I almost got the. Even the coach over there came up to me and said, "Look, if it was MMA, that was great, but
wow,
been doing that." So it really, I managed to last 3 rounds and I lost points.
Wow, well done! What an experience and what a great story.
Yeah.
What do you love most about the martial arts?
Definitely the fact, particularly as I've gotten older, it's the stress management, the mindfulness. It's all the elements of meditation that sometimes we just can't get to in our busy lives, to sit still and to work on being present, to work on stress reduction, breathing, all those things. So it really is the physical medication aspects, I think, of martial arts that's now most important to me. And you can, that can be achieved through any type of training. And I think what's most important to me about martial arts is the fact that it enables you to do that, to actually just spend that hour and a half being present. And it's that physical ability to do that. Martial arts gives you that physical vehicle to really just spend that time that you need to on just forgetting about the day, the stresses, work-life balance, and all those issues that are constantly in your mind. So I think to me that's most important.
And who are you training with at the moment? I'm more than happy for you to give them a plug online for anyone listening.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, I'm really enjoying training with the guys at Tawazi Boxing and Brilliant Jiu-Jitsu, which is set up by Manny Rodriguez and Coach Shane. And I'm really enjoying that simply because their attitude towards teaching, it's really founded on those traditional models and traditional philosophies. It's really martial arts like how they're running their club, but I really like that, and I really respect it that, they talk about coming in and just letting go of the day's problems and just zero in on training our guys. And if you come in some days and you've had a stressful day, they're really open to you just, okay, you don't necessarily have to try and go hard every time. A session on, we respect that. And I think that's important. I think it's important for people to be able to go into their training sessions with that flexibility to regulate, to auto-regulate. And a lot of coaches, will always try and push the same agenda every session, and it doesn't always match to the individual's day and the individual's presentation. So for me, that's what I'm enjoying, and I'm just enjoying the fact that the attention to the technique, whereas, I've trained in a lot of different clubs and they're all good in their own way, but to just strip things back and really focusing on the footwork, the technique, the positioning, and spending time on that, to me, is important. And it's where that really a great way to use that physical mindfulness training.
And definitely Shane and Manny are very passionate blokes. They love doing what they do, and they don't do it for financial gain. They're happy to teach anyone that walks in for hours and hours. Right. And anyone that lives on the Gold Coast, you do yourself a big favour training with those boys.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you're looking for deep. If you want to learn to know the how. That's what I like. The effort they put into explaining why and how. Whereas there's nothing wrong with doing a boxing and kickboxing class, which is fitness focused and conditioning focused. But I guess at some point you want a bit more detail. You want to dive in a bit more to the theories behind why certain techniques are done this way and the strategy behind it. So, and that's what I think you'll really get out of it. If you were to come to the Tawazi Club, it's what I most enjoy.
We've spoken extensively. Sorry, let me start that again. You and I have spoken a fair bit about traditional martial arts versus modern martial arts. We both agree that they have their place and they're very important for people to train mindfulness, fitness, health. When it comes to fighting, you've got a few views that I agree with about the pressure testing of some of the traditional arts. Can you just elaborate on that a bit more? As someone, yourself personally, you got to a high level in kung fu, and you actually sought out other systems to improve your fighting skills. Do you think people have worked that out yet?
I have to say, I think mixed martial arts are amazing to answer that question, and that's where we really saw the rise in popularity of that sport. I think a lot of people got to the same point, the same conclusion I think I did, is there was a gap. And that is, when I'm looking to actually see how well this training I've done translates into a situation, a practical situation or a real life situation, there were some real gaps and some concerns about whether or not what I've been training for would work. And to me, that's the issue. And it's absolutely no disrespect to the traditional systems, because they offer so much in so many other areas, but when it comes to the direct application of combat, well, it's stripped back and it's pretty raw, and it's pretty clear that you don't need a plethora of techniques to be successful in defending yourself. So the more information you learn, the more you have to manage as well. So the answer to that is looking at those systems, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because of the fact that, every session someone's actually really trying to choke you, or someone's actually really trying to give you an armbar when you're grappling and wrestling, or rolling as they call it. Well, that's a real test, because the person you're wrestling with is actually trying to submit you. Mm-hmm. And just like someone on the street, if you were to get into a fight, someone's really going to try and choke you, or then you need to pressure test yourself to make sure you can cope with that situation. And with the traditional martial arts and not being able to apply the techniques in a real life situation, or at least a situation that forces you, like boxing as well, someone's really trying to punch you in the face, even though they've got gloves on, if you don't move or you don't actually counter, then you get hit. And you learn firsthand that what works and what doesn't. And I think that's the situation we're in with the move away from traditional martial arts exclusively to cross-training and then starting to train in these other systems where there are elements of direct combat exposure.
Mm-hmm. How has martial arts improved your life?
I think, and a lot of people might agree, it's just that to train the body is really to train the mind. And I think with the martial arts training, it's helping you cope in those situations where you might not do so well in those stressful situations where you're in the car and you've got the opportunity to experience road rage. Whereas with your martial arts training, it's like, well, you're sparring and you've been hit. Now you can react really aggressively, or you can pull back a little bit, respond firmly, but not overly aggressively. And that's what sparring teaches you. And I think with martial arts, it's the same scenario. How to regulate yourself under stress. I think that's my take home.
For you personally?
Absolutely. How to regulation under stress is what's most meaningful for me in martial arts training and how it helps me in life.
Can you name some of your martial arts influences over the years?
Oh, there's so many. And it can change a lot. You can learn so much very quickly from just watching a different martial artist or fighter fight. And all of a sudden you've got a newfound respect. And I've got so many, I don't know if I could name one. I mean, it seems to be something that evolves and changes all the time. But I've been influenced by so many, and certainly kudos to people like Mick Spinks, who introduced me to the concept that it is okay to cross-train. He really revolutionised that in his system. He had the very traditional double dragon, which is an excellent kung fu system, but he was also training kickboxing, and he also was doing one of the first martial artists that I understand who really jumped in on the BJJ movement. I really respect Mick for that, because it showed me it is okay to do that, and I haven't really, slashed any sacred cows by, wanting to cross train, which I always had some guilt about. So certainly a lot of respect for Mick in that way, leading the way and letting us all feel it's okay to cross train and to, experiment outside of our primary system of training.
Fantastic. We haven't touched on this, you've also achieved a high level in Filipino stick fighting, Arnis. And one of my highlights was you and I meeting Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's training partner. You trained at Arnis for many years, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, how did that... So that's when I was running the Kung Fu school at Caringbah, the Wu Chi school. I came across another individual who was part of a system, it was a karate system that incorporated Arnis, it was an interesting mix. And when I found out about it, I went and did a few classes, and this was just in Caringbah, not far from where I was running my Kung Fu school, mainly because I wanted to do the Arnis training. So I started doing that, cross-training with those guys as well in this Arnis system. And then what happened is that school unfortunately folded, but one of the students who was quite high up in the Arnis system, he'd got his black belt equivalent, agreed to keep training me. So I'd go around to his house. He was living in Miranda at the time. And I would do these 1 hour sessions with him where he would teach me the particular Arnis system that they'd used. That Arnis system had a full grading curriculum, which was really interesting, including katas and actual, a curriculum around what you need to know, what defensive and offensive moves you need to know for each level or each belt. So I was lucky enough to follow that system all the way through. And he pretty much taught me the curriculum from the white belt equivalent to the black belt equivalent.
Yes, I enjoyed those days. You introduced me to the Arnis system and taught me as well privately. I was very lucky for that, lucky to do that. And I recall a time we started, you wanted to test the disarming without the safety sticks. And we used real sticks. And I thought you were nuts for proposing the idea that you were going to come at me with a rattan stick, and I was meant to defend it. And I went in for the block, but I missed, and it clipped my elbow and blood squirted out everywhere. That was in your little dojo in Caringbah. So you also like to pressure test stick fighting as well, which was good.
Yeah, I think that was spurred on because the Matt, his name, Matt was very into the Dog Brothers. If you haven't heard of the Dog Brothers, you should have a look at some of their videos. The Dog Brothers are these two, I think they're American, and they actually have this club where they do full contact stick sparring without any protective equipment. Okay. So they spar with Arnis sticks, and he was quite influenced by those. So it was some of our sessions he would want to do the same with me. And again, with the theory that if you don't pressure test this, then if someone really has a stick, a club, a bat, anything, they're trying to hit you with it, it's all well and good to have nice fancy disarms, but you've still got to have those basic defense skills against someone really trying to hit you with some object. So he incorporated a lot of pressure testing or real life scenarios, if you want to call it that.
And you thought you'd experiment on me. Very good.
Well, it goes down the chain, doesn't it? The instructor does it to the higher student. The higher student does it to the younger student, or isn't that just the natural chain of events? The hierarchy system.
Last question, Luke. Punching or kicking?
Oh, kicking. I can't help it. And every chance I get, even in the boxing classes, if there's a 5 minutes, I'll spend 5 minutes at the end of the class just making sure I can kick the bag. So I do have, I guess, a natural inclination towards kicking.
Does Coach Shane know this?
Yeah, he knows. He knows. And sometimes I get in trouble because I revert back to a kickboxing style, and I am there to learn boxing, and I have to remember that. So that's because I have that inclination for kicking.
Thank you, Luke. That was a fantastic discussion. Nice chat with my old training partner and now my colleague at Australian Combat and Exercise. You've also taken your passion for martial arts and included it in your research for the last few years. You've done a number of studies in combat sports, boxing, kickboxing, mixed martial arts. So if anyone interested in looking at some of those studies, they are available on our website. Luke, thanks for your time, mate.
No, thank you. Thanks, Ace.
Cheers, mate. And cut.